one of my favorite people, Julia Gordon-Bramer. Good morning.
Hi, Valentine.
Julia is the host of a great show on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock called Mystic Fix. I was so happy to hear you had a show on the
Thank you.
station because just you as a person are so positive. You know, I go down your Twitter. You know, I see your Twitter feeds all the time. Your Twitter feed all the time, and everything is positive. The act of directing the spotlight of attention back to the present moment again and again with meditation literally changes the structure of the brain. Studies show new meditators have more activity in the frontal cortex. You know what I mean? Everything you write is a positive message.
Well, so the reason I got back on Twitter, I started a Twitter account like 10 years ago, and I kind of fell away from it. And then I have been kind of on a mission, and Mystic Fix is a part of it, to, you know, have an alternative to this divisiveness. And I'm about unity, and I'm about finding peace. And Twitter is, you know, people have said, like, good luck with that, you know, on Twitter, because it can be a very dark, negative place. But I want to be a positive presence there, and I want to help people, and I want to show all kinds of people. You know, earlier on Mike Ferguson's show, they were talking about inclusivity, and I was thinking about how the idea of inclusivity, of course, means everyone, all points of view, everyone having the same rights. And these days, it isn't really that. You know, we have people we leave out. You know, I think of, I'm watching the series The Chosen. I don't know if you know of The Chosen. And it's a really clever story of Jesus and the disciples, but it's more from the disciples' point of view. And it's all about their humanity, and it's also about the politics of the Romans and the, you know, the takeover and the fear of the government. And a really interesting time to watch this. And one of the things that came to my mind was Matthew, the tax collector, who was really despised even by the other disciples for being a tax collector. And it took them some time to be open enough and inclusive enough to all points of view. And so, yeah, I don't know. I'm just on this mission for unity. And I am, back in 2020, I started a Course in Miracles study group, which is an interesting thing for people who don't know A Course in Miracles. It's kind of half Buddhism and half Christianity. If you were to study A Course in Miracles, you'd understand that Jesus was very Buddhist in his principles. And, you know, I like to say that the truth is the truth, and we have different brands of it, and people kind of latch on to what fits their personality best. So for some people that's Muslim, for some people that's Christian, for some people it's Buddhist, some just say they're agnostic spiritual, and it can all be essentially the same peace and love and unity.
Yeah. So when you talk about divisiveness, right? The Super Bowl had some commercials played, and they're all about Jesus.
I heard about this, and I have not seen those commercials yet. I'm eager to watch them. But yeah, I didn't watch the Super Bowl. I'm not a football girl.
I didn't either. We went to the movies. Right? The truth, we went to the movies. But it was all about, you know, Jesus saying, act more like a child when it comes to how you look at other people. Because kids aren't born.
Kids don't put labels on people, and
it's taught behavior, you know. And you look at these, like one of them has, the kids are maybe, I don't know, 2 years old, possibly, 3 maybe, very, very tiny kids, one white kid, one black kid. They see each other and they get all excited and they run to each other and they hug each other, you know. What a great message. Well, Alexandria Ocasio, not to make you get it, I'll do politics for you, you can just try. But she thought that was a attack on the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, very strange interpretation. And gosh, you know, I want to hear positive messages from anyone and everyone. And I want to hear about peace and love and unity from anyone and everyone. And I'm not going to say, well, you know, you look at their background and they're blah blah blah, you know, because it's the message, it's the overall thing, and we are all everybody's got something that feels, oh, I don't know, politically incorrect or uncomfortable, or I mean, everybody does. And everybody can be held up to the microscope and cast in a negative way, if, and certainly out of context too. So, I just think that's a shame that she didn't use that as an opportunity to unify.
Right?
Exactly.
If those spots didn't make you want to unify with your neighbor, no matter
Right.
what they look like, then maybe take a look at yourself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just some of it just makes no sense to me. And divisiveness is something that in the atmosphere that we live in today.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, I could be 100% wrong, but I don't think there's anybody, especially in America, who is unbiased.
Of course.
So with that being said, by definition, you can't get a nonpartisan group
Right.
or person to do anything in this country
Right.
on either side.
We all have our baggage. I mean, as a tarot card reader, so I have to be very careful in my readings. I prefer to read for strangers, because then you cannot say that I have an attachment to your outcome. I do not read in general for my husband or my children. And sometimes I don't read for myself if I'm too attached to what I want to happen. So yeah, bias messes everything up, truly. It's a very difficult thing to be unbiased as a human being.
It is, and I know I'm biased, obviously.
Sure,
I
we all
work on
are.
a station like this, right? But it's the people who are the fake, phony balonies who say that they're nonpartisan, because they're not.
Yeah.
Every person in America has a bias, period.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking to Julia Gordon-Bramer, a great show on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock called Mystic Fix. Tell us about the show. Tell us about the format. How does it work? Are you reading tarot cards during the show at all?
So yeah. So we've had 2 episodes airing so far, and they are now available. The video cast. I just want to give a little plug for my video cast,
you bet.
because it's on YouTube and Rumble, and it is different from the show in the way that in some cases, because I don't have the time restrictions, I could add or keep a little something that got cut out from what was aired. The other thing is because I needed a creative solution to my video problem. When we set up the video, I had way too much space between my guest and myself. And so in the center space, I basically turned it into like VH1 pop-up videos. So
I love that.
So there's lots of kind of information nuggets and explanations of words that people aren't familiar with, and sometimes just some goofy pictures or fun things. So I made it kind of an experience, and I don't know if people will think it's maybe the most professional, but I had a good time with it, and it really takes me back to my days when I founded Night Times magazine back in the 90s, and I used to run a rock and roll magazine here in St. Louis in the 90s, and it was like Night Times. Mystic Fix is kind of a local slant on a big, a universal theme, and I have usually I have an in-studio guest plus an author speaking on a related theme. And then the last segment, I read tarot cards for callers. So it's been really fun. We're kind of finding our feet, and I admit that the first one I was a little awkward because it's pre-recorded. And so that's a little weird for me. Like right here with you, it's all happening in the moment, and I can hear the bumper music, and I know when we're going to commercial. And in the pre-recorded thing, I just get a hand signal, and I'm like,
You gotta make believe you're hearing bumper music.
Yeah. So I'm kind of getting used to that. It's I can't say that this is totally in my comfort zone, but I am having.
Give yourself a break.
Yeah,
really.
and I am having fun with it, and I think it's an opportunity to give a lot of my fellow authors. I'm also an author. Give my fellow authors some attention in their books, and just kind of continue this idea of unity and spirituality, however you want to frame it. So sometimes it's going to be a little weird. We've already talked about levitation, and we've talked about mysticism and psychic healing, things like that. But it's always about unity and peace and love.
So, Julia, when you do a tarot reading, do you get a feel for the person's soul, their aura? Is that?
I wouldn't say that exactly. So there are different kinds of psychic ability, and over the years, I used to call it an inner voice. Today, there's a term clairaudient, which just means that I hear something. So if I'm reading your cards, Ken, I kind of tune into you, and I look at the cards, and the cards are symbolic, and they are telling me things just by existing, just by being there. But I may be able to elaborate on what I'm seeing and give you like some very specific detail or something by what I hear inside my head. Yeah.
So, two things I want to bring up as we're running out of time here.
Uh-huh.
When you're when you're doing a tarot card reading for somebody, right? And you turn over a card and it's in your head clearly not a good card, right?
Yeah, it's happened.
You have to watch yourself and go, oh God, no.
Yeah.
Right?
It's happened. I specifically remember, and I wrote about this in a book that's going to be released in November called Tarot Life Lessons. But I had a couple in front of me at a Christmas party, and it was really obvious that this man had had a number of infidelities in the marriage, and it was like right there for the lovers in reverse and this idea of cheating and with the Seven of Swords, and just like these pictures. Sometimes people see the pictures and they know, without knowing how to read the tarot. They get scared or they get uneasy, and that's where I ask Spirit to help me. And sometimes I just have to be very diplomatic, saying I'm seeing like a third party kind of confusion, But in this one case, I called it out because it became clear that the spouse knew, and it was an opportunity for, them to do some work on their marriage.
Holy cow. I hope I can get all this in. We used to go to see a psychic because people believe in it or they don't believe it. And on the other side of the coin, there are good, real psychics and there are phony balloons, right? Okay. So we used to go to this girl, her name was Judith. Never met this woman in my life, okay? She said to me that my grandfather was in the room, right? And I said, well, which one? And she says, well, he's short and he's impeccably dressed. And I was like, that's my father's father.
Oh, wow.
He used to call me Shorty because I was so much taller than him. Because I'm the freak of the family in height. And then she said, oh, he's sorry about your friend Pete. Motorcycle accident? I was like, oh my God. How can this lady know that I had a great friend named Pete who died in a motorcycle accident? Right? So I believe in all that stuff.
Yeah.
And you've done a reading for me, and I think it's just great. And here we are running out. Damn it. I'm so sorry. So
it's all good.
Mystic Fix, Saturday nights, 8 o'clock. In 10 seconds, can you tell me where we find your books?
On Amazon. So Julia Gordon-Bramer. So right now I have 3 books that are published on Amazon. However, a new book coming out, Tarot Life Lessons, in November, and that is with Destiny Books. And another book next year, but that's another thing.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Right.
Thanks, Vic.
That's
And
Julia Gordon-Bramer. Listen to her Saturday nights at 8 on 101.9 and 94.1 News Talk STL. Welcome home.